ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to this second part of the series on Vaishnav Ninda. I'll just recap what we have been discussing and then begin today's this second session, which is a very important session for us to understand. We began with this very important essay written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur on Vaishnav Ninda. So in the first part, we discussed the introduction, that is basically Srila Prabhupada's commentary in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Hathi Mata, Vaishnava Aparadh compared to a mad elephant offense. And then we discussed Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book Vaishnav Ninda, the Bengali and English explanation with additional notes and flow charts. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote an essay, in fact it was a talk what he gave, which was later on written as an essay and published in his journal, that is the Harmonist. And we had a quite elaborate discussion on this very important essay of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And within this discussion also, we many times referred to Chaitanya Charitamrita and other topics which were connected to this topic of Vaishnav Ninda. Basically, to summarize, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that among all types of aparadh, Vaishnava aparadh is very, very serious. And he lists the 6 types of Vaishnava aparadh which can be committed. And then he analyzes, firstly, who is a Vaishnava and what constitutes Vaishnav Aparadh. So that is the sum and substance of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's essay on Vaishnav Nindar. So he analyzes who is a Vaishnava from the Bhagavad perspective and from the Chaitanya Charitamrita perspective of who is a Vaishnava. Anyone who takes the name of Krishna is a Vaishnava. And how we commit Vaishnav Ninda is by finding faults in Vaishnavas. And that is in three ways. Discussing about the defects of a Vaishnava previous to his taking to spiritual life, while he's practicing spiritual life and the anarthas are almost, the papa is getting destroyed. At that time, discussing his faults, and sometimes in very advanced devotees also, by daiva, providence, they might commit some mistake or they might do something wrong, and speaking about it. And in that context, we saw the famous verse, Api Chet Suduracharu. So when we do this is the three things. And the fourth is accusing or making some false allegations. So when we do this constitutes Vaishnav Ninda, Aparadh. And if one criticizes Vaishnavas, then Nama Prabhu, the personified form of the name, we commit Nama Aparadh, he will not Spurit. Spurit means reveal us his glories, and we will not be able to take up to Shuddha Nam. We will be committing Nama Aparadh. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur had discussed. And if there is Sad Uddesh, if there is a purpose which is serving some higher purpose, Sad Uddesh, then the faults can be discussed in order to bring auspicious to that person or to the auspiciousness of the world or one's own benefit and welfare. Only in these instances, we can speak, but there has to be a purpose. There has to be Sad Uddesh. And the last theme which Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke was how it is because of only Asat Sang, or when we commit Vaishnav Ninda, we more go into Asat Sang. And that is why we should be in the Sang of Sat, that is devotees, and discuss about Sat. Sat is the absolute truth. But usually, it is a tendency of the conditioned minds or the conditioned souls that even in the association of devotees, instead of discussing Krishna Katha, Matchitta, Matgata, Prana, Bodhayanta, Parasparam, Katashchantamam, Nityam, Tushyanti, cha Ramanti cha, we sometimes speak about this, speak about that Vaishnava and all. And that's how we end up in doing Prajalpa. And even though it is a Satsanga, we can fall in Asatsanga. But definitely the conclusive discussion was that when one commits aparadh, criticism, which is, sometimes very heavy, slowly he falls in bad association. One, he loses taste for chanting. So this is how we had concluded Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis on Vaishnav Ninda, which was a part of a series of discussions for almost 11 sessions. Now, part 2 is basically, you can say, a Shastric perspective and you can say practical application perspective of how to practically deal with this, criticism, which is actually born out of envy. So we will be doing a definitive analysis of criticism, which is born of envy. This will be beginning from today, part 2. Then you might say that, no, I don't criticize Vaishnavas. I always glorify Vaishnavas. I don't see fault in Vaishnavas. So the second theme, which we will be discussing is, what are the qualities of one who is free from envy? So this we will be doing from the Gita and the Bhagavad. And this will be like a litmus test to check ourselves whether we are free from envy. So this will be the second part, which we will be discussing in our practical application and Shastric perspective. And then we will go into the pastimes. Especially, there are many pastimes in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And these pastimes will be very interesting for us to learn the lessons of how dangerous is criticism. And we will be taking few of the pastimes discussion and the lessons we learn from that. So that will be the third part of our discussion. So today we will begin with the first part, criticism is born of envy, a definitive analysis. So now let us begin this discussion. Understanding the terms dislike, jealous, envious. You've all heard these terms, definitely. I don't like him. I'm jealous about him, or I'm envious about him. So now I ask the audience, what is the difference between these three terms? Dislike, jealous, and envious. What is the difference between that? You can raise your hands if you would like to answer. Anyone would like to try? What is the meaning of these three? They look quite similar. Dislike, jealous, and envious. Okay, Shrivas Pandit Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, dislike means sometimes you might be liking also, but sometimes you are disliking him. So like and dislike go together.
And what is then
And
jealous?
jealousy means you are most of the times you dislike the person. So you are jealous means you are like envious. I know envious means you are practically trying to show the person down in front of everybody, the crowd.
Okay.
That is envy.
Okay.
Jealousy means you feel some envy, but it is natural. You feel something against somebody. You can feel, but you are not publicly trying to derogate somebody. But envy means you are trying to publicly put down somebody.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good differentiation between jealous and envious. There is one more, Mataji. Yes, Mataji. Shwet Gopi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, first of all, I would like to thank you to arrange these wonderful sessions. Prabhuji, jealousy, first one, dislike is just when we are thinking in the mind. Then the second is when we are putting into words. And the third, envy, is when we, plan out something to, give some difficulty to a devotee.
Okay, dislike is just in the mind, and jealousy in the words, and then envy is planning actually. Yes, jealousy and dislike, yes, that's also a good understanding. I would like to hear from the devotees. Yeah, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. What I inferred from this is dislike means, as generally it is said that Sajati Asha Bhagavad Bhakta Snigdha Sangha. We would like to associate with those who have like-minded tastes. So when we see somebody who is not of that, so generally we don't feel interested in them. So in one way, in a passive way, we dislike them. And next is jealous. Jealous is something which I really want to possess that other person is having or other devotee is having, but I don't have that quality. I aspire for that, but I express that in the form of a jealousy. Whereas envy is like wishing ill for that Vaishnava who has those qualities which I don't have. Somehow try to find fault with him.
Yeah, there is still something deeper with jealousy and envy. You all are correct, but something, let us see, somebody else would also like to try. There is in the chat box, jealousy means he has something, but I don't have. We feel. That's it is mentioned. Anyone else would like to try can raise their hands. Yeah, one more is there. Virendra Yadav Prabhuji, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I feel this jealousy and disliking both are byproduct of envy only. Envy is the main factor, and these two are derived from envy, I feel.
Yes, that's true. But again, now dislike, jealousy, and envy. Now, what is again the difference between now jealousy and envy then? You're all correct to quite a certain degree. Now, let us go and try to look at these words. Like jealous and envious. Now, these are basically feelings. And these feelings are associated, which is called in Hindi or Sanskrit as bhavana, with the mind. These are feelings. Now, dislike to jealousy to enviousness, the degree of the feeling is deeper and deeper and deeper. This is first thing to be noted about. This is first thing to be noted. Kindly don't type anything now in the chat box. If you have to ask question or say something, you can raise your hand. So let me come again. These three terms, dislike, jealous, and envious. Dislike is a kind of a feeling, and it is like in the mind. There is like and dislike. In general terms, I like this Prabhuji, I don't like him. So it's a general feeling, but I don't like him, just for some reason, maybe the way he behaves, or, maybe he has said, you might have not had a good experience with him. So, and you have, among Vaishnava friend circle, you have some devotees, whom you gel quite well and you like him. So this is like and dislike. Now, both these likes and dislikes, even in the Vaishnava circle, if we have, still we are operating at the mental platform. We are operating at the platform of raga and dvesh. Raga means attraction, dvesh means repulsion. So I like this devotee, so I gel with him. Somehow I did not have a good experience with this devotee first time, so I don't like him. So when I see him, I'm not like, the feeling in the heart is not that I'm jealous seeing him, but I just don't like him, I dislike him. So even this feeling of dislike is not a healthy feeling. This is first point to be noted about dislike. Now let's come to the deeper second level, that is jealous. Jealous, basically, I heard this wonderful explanation from His Grace Radha Gopinath Prabhu, and I really liked it. Jealous means that somebody possesses something and you don't possess it, as some of the devotees had pointed out. He has this wonderful quality. He's a good speaker. He has a lot of following, and seeing that, you burn in your heart. So jealousy means you burn in your heart. Seeing him, you become jealous. It's not just dislike. When you see him, there is a burning sensation in your heart which is happening. That is because of jealousy. This is the second aspect. The degree is now deeper when it is jealousy. Now, enviousness is still deeper. Not only you are burning in your heart, you want to burn the other person. That is enviousness. That means you want to harm him. The example you can give, like two friends are there. They are both close friends, You cannot call it Sajati, but they are good friends. They gel with each other. They have good similar qualities. And one friend, both the friends have a desire to have a bullet. Bullet is a bike, And some of the other friend now possesses the bullet. And because you have liking for that bullet, and now your friend has it, seeing the bullet, you become jealous. You start burning in your heart. And this is jealousy. And we can all sense it within ourselves, to what degree we have this dislike or jealous. But enviousness is deep-rooted. When that envy, that kind of burning which is there very strong within, in the heart, you feel, I also want to possess, but I'm not able to possess, but he is possessing that. So I'm burning in my heart, but I will also burn him. I will burn him means I will set fire to that bullet. Why he should possess that? So that is where, when we try to harm the other person because of enviousness. So that is how the 3 degrees are. And that is the difference between jealousy and envy. Jealousy means we burn because we don't have that quality or we don't possess that thing. And enviousness means not only we burn, but we want to burn the other person. And that is enviousness. So this is how these 3 terms we can look into. Now, as I mentioned, this we will be now studying from more of a practical application perspective and from a Shastric perspective. Now, I will today tell you a very interesting story, and I don't know whether many of you have heard. It's a very interesting story from the real life of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about criticism, or it is criticism falls in these 3 categories only, in fact, and then do a Shastric analysis on this. And more of a practical application point of view, we will be studying this. So let us come to this story of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But before that, a beautiful quotation by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. His statement is, don't criticize devotees or non-devotees. Just making one small comment, that can also be criticism. Mark it. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, don't criticize devotees or non-devotees. First, look at your own condition and try to purify yourself. Moment, because we are actually Bhaya Drishti, it is called. We have only external vision. We don't have the internal vision to see within ourselves. So the mind is always, in contact with the outer reality, the senses and the world and the external vision of seeing things. The mind, because it is not introspective and it is not fully purified, we cannot see within ourselves our own faults, or what kind of conditionings we have, our own anarthas. For that, the mind has to be very pure. The mind is like a screen through which we see the outer world. And when that mind is pure, that same pure mind we can see within ourselves also. So we don't have that drishti. We have a Bhaya Drishti. So that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, first look at your own condition and try to purify yourself. Whenever the mind tries to externally look and try to comment or try to come up with these things, immediately we have to give shiksha to the mind. We have to preach to the mind. Look at your own self. Are you pure? Are you pure enough? Like that. So this is the kind of pointing he's making out. Is there any lust in you? You can ask yourself. Is there any kutinati, deceit in you or not? Be worried for that. You be worried about that. Don't worry for others. But our condition is, Bhaya Drishti is what? We are worried about others more and we are not worried about ourselves. Shri Guru and Lord Shri Krishna are responsible for others. So this is how we should see. Shri Guru and Lord Krishna are responsible for others. You cannot do anything to help them. So you have no right to criticize. It's a beautiful statement by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And in this context, I will tell you a real story which happened during the life of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. It is very instructive lesson and very moving lesson. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had his disciples to Dhaka to open a center. This is about that story. Once Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, sent some devotees to preach in Bengal. That time it was the same, it was called as Bengal only. And they preached very well. They wanted to establish a preaching center there. And they asked Srila Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, what should we do? He replied, I will be very happy if you establish a preaching center. And when you are ready, I will come there with many devotees. They began preparing the preaching center, working day and night, making it very good with all kinds of equipment so that Srila Prabhupada would come there and be happy. They made a temple in that center, and the deities were ready and waiting to be installed by Srila Prabhupada. The installation ceremony was just about to begin. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had arrived there. Now, hear the climax. Srila Prabhupada arrived at the temple at midday. This was afternoon. He saw everything and he became pleased. Then he asked, where is the brahmachari who came here first and worked so hard? So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is concerned about the devotees there. Where is that brahmachari? He has seen everything, but where he's seeing, actually now you can see, he's seen the temple, the deities are ready, the whole festival is going on of the new temple opening, the deity installation, and see the consciousness of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's concerned, where is that brahmachari who came here first and worked so hard? They told him, Master, that devotee was a very good brahmachari, but then he became entangled with a lady. We rebuked him so much for his behavior that he fled from this place. Now, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur heard this, what was his response? Srila Prabhupada said, I don't want to establish a preaching center here, nor do I want to install the deities. You know, in this world, we spend hundreds of gallons of blood to bring a person out of the clutches of Maya. And if that person makes some mistake, it will be washed away by serving Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. If he makes some mistake, this is how Krishna also sees. That is why Krishna is saying the most confidential knowledge is what? Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananyamak sadhur eva samantavya. You should see him as a sadhu, even if he commits a mistake. If he's engaged in my devotion, this is the vision of Krishna, and this is the vision of the pure devotees, and this is the vision of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Even if he makes some mistake, it will be washed away by serving Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. But you have chastised him and he has gone away. So I don't want to make a center here. Search for him and bring him to me. Otherwise, I will go away. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very, very heavy. All the disciples, including the senior sannyasis of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they were really serious now. And the whole ceremony of the temple opening and the deity installation came to a standstill. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted that brahmachari. He wanted to see him. And now where to search? Because he had gone many days back. He had left after this chastisement. He had left the association of devotees and he had gone somewhere and nobody knew where he was. So let us see what happened. All the disciples became very anxious and they began searching everywhere for that brahmachari who was entangled with the lady. So they were searching for him. First of all, these brahmacharis had gone from Mayapur or some other center, mostly to Dhaka, which is a foreign land in one sense. And slowly they had started preaching and they were like not known devotees there. So where has he gone? All were searching here and there. Shripad Madhav Maharaj, who at that time was named Hayagriv Brahmachari, somehow discovered his whereabouts. So this brahmachari, who was entangled in a lady, somehow he had developed some acquaintance with a watch shop. And he was cultivating him. He had good friendship with him. So after he was chastised very severely, he was heartbroken. Somehow he went back and he was serving in that watch shop. And Madhav Maharaj was Hayagriv Brahmachari, knew about his acquaintance. So maybe he is there in that watch shop. So he went there. And immediately he apologized to that brahmachari and said, please excuse me. Srila Prabhupada is very unhappy with us. Please come. The brahmachari began to weep, saying, Prabhupada is very merciful. I was serving here in a watch company, but I was not really happy. I wanted to return, but I was thinking, how can I show my face? So I did not. return. But Srila Prabhupada has called, what endless mercy he has. He is more merciful than Lord Krishna. So this is what happened. You can imagine the emotions, the scene, actually what happened when this Madhav Maharaj, informed his brahmachari and what he was going through in his heart. When he was criticized, when he was chastised heavily, and he had to leave the place, he was working in that watch company, but all the time he was thinking, he was feeling, when I will go back and be in the association of devotees. So he was feeling that separation. He was in the state of repentance. And only Krishna and his pure devotees can understand what is going on in the heart of their disciples and in the heart of everyone. Nobody else can, from our external perspective, understand what a devotee goes through sometimes, especially in these times of crisis. So this devotee could understand the boundless compassion of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And this is his statement: he is more merciful than Lord Krishna. He at once went running and weeping to Srila Prabhupada, fell flat at his Guru Maharaj's lotus feet, and all his anarthas were washed away in a moment. So just by that act of repentance, what he is feeling, the separation he was feeling, he went to his Guru Maharaj, offered his dandavats, and all his anarthas were immediately destroyed in a moment. This is an actual true incident which happened. So don't criticize anyone, neither a devotee nor a worldly person. It has been told in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:28, 1 and 2. Now, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam and especially the 11th canto Uddhav Gita is the most confidential knowledge of devotion which Krishna is discussing to Uddhav. Now, I would like to give you a glimpse of understanding what actually is happening in the Uddhav Gita. From a material perspective, let us take one example. Somebody in this world, he is leaving this world now. At that time, what he is going to reveal from his heart will be the pure outpourings from his heart, be it a materialistic person or a devotee also. So even a materialistic person, even if he has done something wrong, he might ask forgiveness to his family members, or he might reveal something, which he might have not revealed to his children, sons and daughters. So all these things are happening, especially when a person is leaving this world, when he's at the time of death and when he's leaving this world. Now, Krishna is not leaving this world because Krishna, it is pastime of appearance and disappearance. But generally, Krishna now is, enacting this pastime of now going to disappear from this world. And he is confidentially instructing Uddhav. So what are the outpourings of Krishna? He is revealing his heart. Krishna is revealing his heart to Uddhav. And that is why Uddhav Gita contains more confidential instructions of bhakti compared to the Bhagavad Gita. Because the Bhagavad Gita was spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And in Kurukshetra battlefield, it was a context. It was a battle which was supposed to happen. And Krishna spoke to Arjuna various types of yogas. He spoke Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, and ultimately spoke the most confidential Bhakti Yoga. And the most confidential of confidential knowledge of Bhakti Yoga is serving the Lord in pure devotional love. That is the conclusion of the Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. So he could not speak some of the most confidential devotional aspects of Bhakti Yoga because of the setting in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. That what he could not speak to Arjuna, Krishna spoke to his confidential friend Uddhav in the Uddhav Gita. So there is parallels between Bhagavad Gita and Uddhav Gita, and Uddhav Gita is in fact a more confidential revelation of the Lord's heart. And Uddhav Gita is, that's why sometimes more important for us as devotees when we are really going through crisis in our life and when we need deep instructions to give solace to our heart. So Uddhav Gita is one such important Shastra for us. So from the Uddhav Gita, I just gave a background of Uddhav Gita because of the whole story which is here in the pastime of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Now, this is a story. The story ends here, but some discussion on the Shastra is here. So what is it being said? Don't criticize anyone. And it is told in the Srimad Bhagavatam what? What it is being said? Shri Bhagavan Vacha Para Swabhava Karmani Na Prasamsen Na Garayet Vishvam Ekamayam Pashyan Prakritya Purushena Cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, one should neither praise, nor prashamsayan, or criticize the conditioned nature and activities of other persons. Parasvabhava karmani. Here, kindly note down, it is the conditioned nature and activities of other persons. Okay. Rather, one should see this world as simply a combination of material nature and the enjoying souls. Vishvam ekamayam pashyan. Now, what is the vision we should have? Sometimes even devotees, when they see materialistic people enjoying in sense gratification, there is a tendency to criticize, oh, see this materialist, they are enjoying sense gratification. Even this kind of criticism is not healthy for devotees, even for worldly peoples. And what is the actual vision Krishna is revealing? One should see this world simply as a combination of material nature and enjoying selves, all based on one absolute truth. Prakrita Purushena Cha. So you should have a very universal vision. That is what Krishna is saying here in the Uddhav Gita. Now, one thing here to be noted is praising or criticizing is their nature. And their nature is part of their swabhav. And swabhav has to do with our conditioned nature, which is part of our subtle body, the impressions, what we call, the unlimited impressions which are there in the chitta. The chitta is the unlimited impressions which we have. Sometimes it is called as also vasana. Vasana is also referring to good impressions, like sattvic impressions we have, good impressions. And there are certain impressions which we call as vasanas that are like, which are not healthy, which are not dharmic. So these vasanas like kam, krodh, all these kind of vasanas which are there. So we are looking into their swabhav. That is why here it is mentioned as conditioned nature. So neither praising them nor criticizing this conditioned nature is not at all good for devotees. Because ultimately we are not looking at their spiritual nature, the nature of that soul. That soul is pure. That's why Jesus said that statement, don't hate the sinner, but hate the sin. So something like that. So he's a soul. That is a spiritual nature. And the soul is transcendental. But the conditioned nature, that is what we see because of our, materialistic vision. And we sometimes praise his good qualities and we will criticize. If we praise, we will also criticize because these are two sides of the coin. So that is why Krishna is very clearly telling in this instruction that we should not praise or criticize. Now, this is the first verse. I will take the second verse and then take up questions if somebody has. Swabhava karmani yah prashamsati nindati sa asu brashtate swartat asatya abhiniveshata. Now the second verse which Krishna is quoting is Whoever indulges in praising or criticizing the qualities and behavior of others, para swabhava karmani yah prashamsati nindati, will quickly become deviated from his own best interest. Sa ashu, ashu means quickly, brashate swartat, his own interest, by his entanglement in illusionary dualities. That illusionary dualities is what? Asat abhiniveshata. Abhinivesh means he gets absorbed in this, asat. So this is how Krishna is very clearly making this emphatic point that if you do this, what will happen in this verse? So either you like someone because of his nature and you praise him. If you do that, there is rag. And the other side is the dvesh. Dvesh means what? You will also dislike someone and you will criticize. So that is why both these aspects, raga and dvesh, are basically the mental platform. And as long as, we are on this platform, we are not, from the looking things from the spiritual platform or the soul platform. And we are caught up in dualities. Raga and dvesh. There will be raga binivesh and then there will be dvesha binivesh. So being caught up in this raga binivesh and dvesha binivesh, we will be caught up in illusion. So this is what Krishna is instructing to Uddhav in the Uddhav Gita. Now, we will complete this essay and then take up the questions. Don't glorify worldly persons, whether they are good or bad. If you do so, all their bad activities will come in you and your life will be spoiled. So when you, criticize someone of the bad qualities, nothing is going to happen to him. In fact, you will go, acquire those bad qualities. That is how subtle it is. Suppose there is a spider web and you try to, remove that spider web, and you can see when the web you try to remove, you get, it gets caught up in your hand and you get entangled in it. So similarly, either the good qualities of conditioned nature, again, please mark that, or the bad qualities, we either praise or criticize, we end up in becoming affected by those qualities. Now, here, after I discuss this, I'll come to the spiritual perspective of, many devotees ask this question: what about praising devotees? This is one question which is always asked, so I will come to that later on. To bring a person from the clutches of Maya is very, very hard. If lust or any other attachment is present in that person's heart, it will go away very soon if he is chanting and remembering and listening to Harikatha. Be very careful. Don't criticize devotees or non-devotees. First, look at your own condition and try to purify yourself. Is there any lust in you? Is there any kutinati, deceit in you or not? Be worried for that. Don't worry for others. Sri Guru and Lord Sri Krishna are responsible for others. You cannot do anything to help them, so you have no right to criticize. So this is the conclusion of that essay, which is from the life of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And I began with this quote only, explained the story, and then quoted these two verses from the Bhagavatam. Now, we saw in the story, most important what happened is, at once, running and weeping to Srila Prabhupada, he fell at his feet, of Guru Maharaj lotus feet, and all his anarthas were washed away in a moment. So, as devotees are practicing bhakti, and they are doing hearing and chanting, as it is mentioned here, if they are doing hearing and chanting, Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati neshtiki. So nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu, the anarthas will be destroyed if we are regularly doing chanting and hearing, and all the abhadras will be destroyed, and he will be very, very steady situated, and he will ultimately attain love of Godhead. But when the abhadras are still there, when anarth nivritti is still there, when he's doing bhajan, and we see the anarthas, the faults, and we criticize devotees, then what happens is nothing happens to him, but for us, our anarthas increase, and we actually glide down in material consciousness. We glide down in material consciousness, and we lose taste for chanting. Our anarthas keep on growing bigger and bigger. But others, if we see fault in others because of anarthas, so anarthas might be present when one is in anishtita bhajan kriya. Anishtita bhajan kriya means when his bhajan is not still matured. But if he's sincerely hearing and chanting, and if he does this one thing, not to fight faults with Vaishnavas and criticize Vaishnavas, then slowly his heart will quickly get purified, anarthas will be practically destroyed, and he will come to the steady state and attain divine qualities. Because these divine qualities, which Vaishnava qualities, what we say, start manifesting at the end of anarth nivritti. Slowly they start manifesting like kripa, dayalu, daksha, all these 26 qualities of a Vaishnava which I mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is why understanding that the Vaishnavas all are practicing Krishna consciousness, all are going through the purification process, and we just stick on to this hearing and chanting of remembering Harikatha and avoid this one thing, finding faults and criticizing Vaishnavas, then we can attain perfection. So that is the point which I wanted to discuss in this first part with respect to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's pastime, very beautiful pastime, and some quotations which we saw from the Uddhav Gita, and one verse which I quoted, that is Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu. So after this stage of Nishtha, Vairagya comes. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the Bhagavatam discussion is very progressive, ultimately for us to lead to Krishna Leela Katha, 10th canto. There, especially in the 4th canto, there are many pastimes discussed of King Priyavrat, King Uttanapad. Then there is Prachinabari. All these pastimes are discussed not really from the highest level of pure devotional perspective, but to show how all these great kings ultimately attained detachment. And for devotees, also for us to learn that ultimately we have to become detached from this material world. So these pastimes are discussed in the 4th canto. And by practicing bhakti, detachment is a natural product. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Tat Ahetukam. 1-7 in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. When bhakti becomes very matured, then actually this is speaking after stage of Nishtha, then natural detachment will come. And with this natural detachment, all the divine qualities will manifest in that devotee, and he will progressively go from 5th, 6th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th cantos and come to the 10th canto and relish Krishna Katha, Krishna Leela. He can enter into Krishna Leela. One of the reasons, although sometimes we hear Krishna Leela, the 10th canto, from various sannyasis, but we are not able to relish the rasa, is because of anarthas, first reason. Second is because we are always caught up in this raga and dvesha in the form of criticism of Vaishnavas, that is aparadh. So that is second reason. So if we can do this one thing, not forward fights in Vaishnavas and not criticize them, then it is like a highway. Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that this path of bhakti is like a highway to reach directly to Krishna. But the obstacles are we ourselves. We only ourselves put forth obstacles in this path by getting caught up in this criticism of Vaishnavas, finding fault with Vaishnavas. So this is the first part of the discussion. Any questions or any clarifications anyone has? You can raise your hands. Okay, there is one question. Srivas Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, you can speak, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Okay, there is some problem, I think. Let us take Ashray Yoga, Prabhuji. Ashray Yoga, Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So, Prabhuji, thank you very much for your nice session. The question is, we are hearing a lot about we should not criticize, we should not do any offense, Vaishnava aparadh. So, we know the repercussion of this criticism and Vaishnava aparadh. Still, we are prone to do. So, what is the basic reason behind this?
Yes, very important question. What is the reason behind it? That is the next session which is going to come up. So I told the story. Now the Shastric analysis is part of the second session, which of course we cannot begin today. We will be discussing some verses from the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll be doing a quite detailed discussion on these three verses, 2.62, 63, and 64, and also understanding the Acharya's commentaries on that. And then we will be doing a little analysis of what is the reason. Because now, just to summarize and give you a brief answer here, again, further it will be discussed in the next class. One of the reasons is Raga Dvesha Vimuktestu Vishayan Indriyascharan Atma Vashe Vidyatma Prasadam Adhigacchati. Because we don't really work on, becoming free from Raga and Dvesh. Raga Dvesha Vimuktestu. We have to become free from that. Vishayas Indriyascharan, and we don't control our senses and mind. And only when we have controlled the senses and the mind, Atma Vasher, by following the regulative principles, we get the mercy of the Lord. Prasadam Adhigacchati, it is mentioned. So when we get this mercy of the Lord by controlling the mind and senses, then we can genuinely, internally, the Lord reveals the glories of the Vaishnavas, the glory of Krishna Katha, and we are not at all interested in criticism at that point. But generally, devotees cannot do this conquest of Raga and Dvesha, and the mind, it is not getting spiritual taste now, so it settles down to mundane taste. And one of the ways to settle down in mundane taste is the intelligence takes pleasure in finding fault with others and not taking, taste in Krishna Katha, but in Prajal Katha. So this is one of the reasons. We will be doing this Shastric analysis of these three verses, and that time it will be more elaborately explained. There is one more question. Okay. Srivas Prabhuji, regarding dislike, jealousy, envy, how can it be correlated with Dvesha, Matsarya, and Anusuya? Dvesha is, envy, very clearly word to word, it is translated. Matsarya is also envy. Anusuya is also non-enviousness. Actually, it is non-enviousness. Arjuna, because you're non-envious, I will, I will speak you to the most confidential knowledge. So I will be coming to that. I will be taking that verse, in fact, in detail, 9.1. So that time, litmus test, that time I'll. So in Sanskrit, there are many terms, many words which can be used for the same thing, like even for lotus, Jalaja, then there is so many Padmaja, like that. So similarly for envy, these are there, Dvesha, Matsarya and Suya. And I don't know the degrees in Sanskrit, whether they are there as it is there in English, like dislike, jealousy and envy. But definitely in this English terms, dislike, jealousy and envy, there is a progression to higher and higher levels. That is there, deeper and deeper levels. But as far as I understand, Dvesh, Matsarya and Suya are the same. They are all envy. That is my understanding. Now there is 2 more questions. Yes, Nupur Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guruji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, question is, when a person comes to his Krishna consciousness in his beginning stage, we try to see many times it is said that we see a good spark and try to fan it.
Yes.
And we see something, okay, that good quality in one person, then we try to praise him and genuinely praise, but and then try to convert it into a Krishna conscious engagement. So that praise, can you speak something about that? How much, what should be our consciousness? How we should means what should, as a devotee practitioners, when we know the philosophy, and now we are studying this also, so how to praise it, though it is genuine, but somewhere we know that we are trying to make it Krishna conscious, but we praise.
Yeah. Now there are 2 things here what I would like to address. One is, I would say the first thing what you're trying to say is there is a kind of motivation.
Yes.
Yes, this is the right term to be used. It is a motivation. We try to motivate devotees to, do more in spiritual life, do more chanting, or do more, book distribution, or do more collection. And this is a general motivation which we do. And well, that's okay, I feel, about it. Generally, I don't know what others have to say about it, but it's my personal thing. What I would like to say is, generally, if, it should genuinely come from the heart. That's most important, I feel. There's a beautiful statement which I heard, that which is not communicated from the heart is not actually communicated. And that which is not spoken from the heart is not actually communicated. Sorry, that is the word, that is the same phrase. That which is not spoken from the heart is not actually communicated. So, and you can sense it. Definitely you can sense it. There is no doubt about it. I myself have many experience about it. When somebody sends a message also, and from the message also you can come to know whether that, whether the communication was genuinely done from the heart, or it is just a surface expression. So it becomes very genuine, and especially when you're speaking it, it becomes all the more clear also. So this is first aspect to be understood. Now, usually what is my experience is that whether it is, let's take only praising Vaishnavas. This praising of Vaishnavas is done not based on the spiritual quality especially, but based on, some external things. And my observation has been there that if they praise you also, they'll be the ones also later at some point criticize you also. It is going to happen because it is still on the platform of raga and dvesh. It will go from raga and it will end up in the other side of the pendulum, that is dvesh. So that is why genuine appreciation from the heart, that too done not on a regular basis, but rarely done, is, the sutra here, what I feel. I'll mention once His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj in a Sunday feast, even a small service when you do now, they genuinely appreciate from the heart and tell. Even when they say thank you very much, you can feel it. So His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj was saying that usually, I don't like to praise my servants, he said, for the service they do. Because he said that, if I praise them, then they become proud. So I don't like to, and in a Sunday feast, he said, but this servant is very exceptional. And in the Sunday feast, he started glorifying the servant. And I was sitting with that servant and hearing that live lecture on a broadcasted live. And that servant who was serving His Holiness, she was flabbergasted. He was shocked. Maharaj is speaking about me, So Maharaj genuinely, although he has a lot of appreciation, deep appreciation from the heart, he usually doesn't speak, but he spoke on that occasion on a Sunday feast. So my point is that genuine appreciation from the heart, if it is done, it has a very deep impact on others when it is spoken like that. And if you do it on a regular basis, that will be more based on the conditioned nature, and that appreciation will turn to criticism. This is one point. And I had made another point about especially, not to praise or criticize, praise prasadam, Krishna prasadam. Generally, what happens that we have liking because of our conditioned nature. Suppose I'm from some South India, and today there is dosa, and there is traditional South India dosa. I like dosas, and I have the dosa prasadam. And why do I praise that devotee who has cooked dosa? Because I like dosas. It's not actually genuinely because he is, we want to appreciate his service, what he has done for offering this wonderful bhoga to the Lord. Because I like dosa, I praise him. And the opposite will happen. The next day, he will make khichdi and there is a lot of salt. And then I criticize the cook and say, why did you put so much salt? So I'm still caught up in what? Raga and dvesh, based on my likes and dislikes. So that is how we are still caught up in this. So that's why I'll be discussing in the next class, Raga Dvesha Vimukta Istu, quite in detail. And why this criticism comes, that will be dealt in that discussion. Is it clear, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Is there any other question? There is one more hand raised, but before that, let me see. There is nothing in the chat box. Okay. So one more hand is raised. Let me take up that. Maya Narsimha Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, my question is similar, but it is different, Prabhu. Prabhu, is it really possible that we like all the devotees? Because Goswamis also say that we need to take Sajati Asha Bhakta Snigdha Sangha. So we have seen very senior devotees also, they express that if they are not comfortable with certain devotees, they don't stay there. They keep themselves little distant so that they will not commit offenses. So is it possible that ever we will gel with every devotee?
The point is that, Sama Buddhi Vishishyate. In the Gita, I will take that verse. It's important because that verse is what is crucial for us to understand. I think you'll have to mute yourself because there is some. Okay, so I will just. Okay, I'm sharing the screen here. Surin Mitradi Udasina Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhusu Sadhushu Apicha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate. Now here is a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers. These are who? Surin. Affectionate benefactors, Mitra. Ari. Ari refers to envious. Udasin, the neutral. Madhyastha, the mediators. And Dvesha Bandhushu, the enemies, friends and enemies and friends. Pious and sinners, no? Sadhushu api papeshu, with an equal mind. Equal mind here, but it is here you can see sama buddhi, equal intelligence. So we are at least right now, we are caught in raga and dvesh. And this is, how we are oscillating between the mind. So the purification of the mind is, first is mental equanimity. That is why Bhakti Yoga, we come to a steady level when, yogastu kuru karmani sangam tetva dhananjaya siddha asiddha samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Yogastha, be situated in Bhakti Yoga, we can say here. Yogastu kuru karmani, do actions for Krishna's pleasure, we can say here now. Sangam tetva dhananjaya, be free from attachment. Siddha, asiddha, whether there is victory or defeat. Samo bhutva. Samo bhutva means be equipoised. This kind of equanimity, mental equanimity, samatvam yoga uchyate. This is what is called as yoga. So at least now for us, we should have equanimity towards, happiness, distress. There is, defeat and victory, and there is Sita, Ushna, these dualities, these external dualities which are there. And then come to persons. Come to persons. This is at a higher level. There is duality here in terms of, equanimity with terms of what? One who has Gyan and Vigyan, he is Kutastha because he has controlled his senses, Vijitindriya, and he is Yukta. There also the word is 2.4, it is Yukta. Samaloshrashta Kanchana, he sees with equal vision all these things. He thinks with all material things with equal vision. So at least for the material things, we should try to develop this vision. Then to people, it will come with the development of divine vision, which happens when one becomes self-realized soul. So it is a matter of sadhana, it is a matter of practice for us to come. And this is a still higher level. This is still a higher level, which is a Mahabhagavat level. Prabhupada says this is not so easy with respect to people. With respect to things of this world, we can maintain equanimity. But with respect to people, it is not so easy. And it is a part of our internal purification. We have to do that. And it is our test in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. And that is why in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Ehi Balo, Ehi Manda, Sakala Mano Brahma. This is good, this is bad. This is all Mana Brahma. This is all on the mental platform. This is all on the level of duality. So we have to become free from that and we have to work on it. Any other questions, clarifications? Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji. It has made me much more this thing heavy now after seeing those verses.
Okay. Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Prabhuji, my question is, For controlling mind and senses while practicing Krishna consciousness, is it recommended to take help of Ashtanga Yoga practice?
Absolutely no. We have to simply practice Bhakti Yoga, engage the senses in completely Krishna service. And that will take care. There is no need of any Ashtanga Yoga practice. If you're doing some yoga for maintaining your health, that's a different issue. Neither Ashtanga Yoga practice can be practiced in its true form. That is the Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Neither it can be practiced in its true form, nor it can help in, controlling the mind and senses. This is proved in the second chapter only in the Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasopasyam param drishtva nivartate. So in the second chapter it is mentioned. Vishaya vinivartante, he gives up the external sense objects, that is pratyahar. Nirahar, he doesn't give the ahar to the senses. Nirahara dehina. Rasopasya, raso varjam, rasopi asya. Vishaya vinivartante. He refrains the senses from the sense objects. Nirahar. He doesn't give ahar to the senses now. For the conditioned soul, rasa varjam, he gives up the taste. The eyes have taste for form. The tongue has taste for eating a lot of nice tasty food. He gives up rasa varjam, rasa api asya. How? Because he gets a higher vision, param drishtva. No, this higher vision is actually the vision of the yogi who has done pratyahar, and now his vision is internal and he's trying to relish higher vision of the Paramatma. And Prabhupada is here referring to the Ashtanga Yoga practice. But Prabhupada gives a Krishna conscious perspective and says that one who has tasted the beauty of Krishna has no taste for dead material things. This restriction is for less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But restrictions are only good until one actually has taste for Krishna consciousness. When one actually is Krishna conscious, he automatically loses taste for male material things. So Ashtanga Yoga, maybe we can artificially restrain the senses and withdraw the senses from the sense objects and focus inwards. But what happens? Yatatohi api kaunteya purushasya vipaschita indriyani pramathini haranti prasadamana. Although one endeavors like this, he is a man of discriminating knowledge. He knows that sense enjoyment entangles us, but still the senses drag the mind down to sense enjoyment and he falls back in the pool of material enjoyment. So that's why Ashtanga Yoga will not be successful. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a beautiful novel called as what is called as the Prema Pradeep. And there, two gentlemen from Calcutta who are not devotees, they come to Vrindavan and they have heard about a yogi. This yogi, he's a Vaishnava because before he was practicing Ashtanga Yoga, and now he has become a Vaishnava and he has taken shelter of a Vaishnava sannyasi whose name I don't recollect, maybe Prem Das Babaji or someone, or Vaishnava Das Babaji. So these two guests come and they are impressed that he is Ashtanga Yogi and is also Vaishnava. So they think Ashtanga Yogi is he's a superior devotee. And this Ashtanga Yogi, who is a Vaishnava now, takes them to his spiritual master. And there his spiritual master is having a wonderful kirtan, and then he quotes this verse that those who are practicing bhakti, again from Uddhav Gita, I don't recollect the verse, na jnanam na vairagyam prayo, or na yogo na sankhya. One need not practice yoga, sankhya, but just by practicing bhakti, one can conquer me, Krishna says in the Uddhav Gita. So when this Vaishnav Das Babaji or someone, I don't recollect his name, quotes this, so his disciple, who is Ashtanga Yogi, who is now a Vaishnava also, he raises objection. Gurudev, you say that, just by practicing bhakti, one can control the senses and, attain pure devotion. But it is my observation, because I have practiced Ashtanga Yoga and I saw, I was able to, not restrain my senses initially, but while practicing bhakti also, with the practice of Ashtanga Yoga, I was able to restrain the senses. So I think that Ashtanga Yoga helps in controlling the senses. So this is what he says. And then his spiritual master clarifies. Maybe that time you did not have the knowledge of rasa, the science of rasa in bhakti. And because you did not have the science of rasa, you were not able to relish devotional rasa. But if one is relishing devotional rasa, automatically the senses and mind are under control, and one need not make a separate externus endeavor to control the mind and senses by Ashtanga Yoga. So that's how he answers there also. So one who practices bhakti, Krishna comes under his control. Please mark this point. Whereas one who practices Ashtanga Yoga, ultimately he can only control his mind and senses. But because the soul needs rasa, and it cannot artificially just, be restrained in externally controlling the mind and senses and without giving any rasa for the soul ultimately will glide down to mundane rasa over a period of time. So by Ashtanga Yoga and Jnana Yoga, we might control the mind and senses and will not be successful also. But, in Bhakti Yoga, we don't control the mind and senses, we control Krishna. So automatically the mind and senses will be controlled. So we should fully focus in engaging the mind and senses in Krishna's service. And when the mind and senses become purified by devotional practice, and in that purified heart, Krishna will manifest, and then, it becomes an easy process. I elaborated quite in detail because it is very important for devotees to understand this subject. Nupur Mataji. Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Hari Bol.
Yes.
Prabhuji, like in previous answer, you just mentioned that even like someone messages you, we can sense the like what is the mood or purpose behind it. Like similar things happened with me also. And then sometimes I get one more question, whether I am like doing too much mental speculation and trusting my mind more than the devotee, though I know the nature of that person.
No, I'm speaking here in the context where, there is some relationship you have, and in that relationship, maybe there is some strain, and maybe there is the messages which are coming, and then from that you can read. You can relate to the previous events of the dealings, and based on that, the present, what has come now, there is a trail of events which have happened. From that you can sense definitely.
Yeah, but
And-
many sorry, Fuji.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, many times it so happen, Fuji, because like we trust our mind more than the devotee who is like.
No, here I would say that, we should not come to some conclusions, but it's a just observation you make, and, just leave it at there. Just leave it at an observation, and always give a benefit of doubt. Give that room and be open to it. This is very important for us too, as practitioners, devotees. And basically, we should not take a defense. We should be quite open, and we should not be caught up in our own consciousness, but we should think from the consciousness from his perspective on as a genuine well-wisher. In that perspective, you start thinking, and then we will, we'll have a very broad vision. We'll have a very, you can say, Vasudhaiva Kutumbam, that kind of a vision we can have. Then, I don't see any problem. So there should be genuine concern for him, even though there is something like this happening, even in the discussion or in actual, in a conversation or even in the messages like that. That is how we should see it.
Mhm.
Okay. I will just take one more last question and we'll wind up at 8:30. Yes, Raghavendra Naik Prabhuji. Okay, nobody is there here. So we will stop here and we will continue our discussion now, again Tuesday and Thursday in the coming weeks. This will be few sessions now, very few sessions. But if the question answers and discussion goes on for longer time, then we can continue some more sessions also. But it is very important now to get into the practicalities of this situation, what we are facing in our day-to-day lives with it. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna.